Howdy, folks, and welcome to another great adventure. As always, I got a great story for you tonight, and it's going to be about the white wolf. And who doesn't like to hear about the white wolf? And it's this time of year, big full moon, and you're out there, you listen, and you can hear the coyotes howling, and the white wolf is watching. So, here's the story of the white wolf. And of course, I always got something to present. This is from a book called The World's Great Adventure Stories, Volume 1 edition. It's from the Walter J. Black, New York. This is a book, it's falling apart, from 1929. So welcome to the story of the white wolf. Here's my book. It's really old. I got it. So it's almost 100 years old. So here we go. Present me some pictures. As always, I have some cool stuff. And I'm going to start with this one. Okay. There we go. Anyway, I hope you're all enjoying this. Let's see, share screen. You got to get some good sharing on, you know. There we go. This is a story of Marquis d'Arville, told us after a dinner in honor of Saint Hubert at the house of a Baron de Revels. They had run down a stag that day. Marquis was the only one of the guests who had not taken part of the chase. He never hunted. During the whole of the long repast, they had talked of scarcely anything but the massacre of animals. Even the ladies, interested in themselves in the sanctuary, and often unlikely stories, while the orators mimicked the attacks and the combats between man and beast. Ooh, man and beast. All right, yeah, of course they got man and beast on a deer hunt. M. de Arville talked much with a certain posy, a little flowerish, but full of effect. He must have repeated the story often. It ran so smoothly, never halting at a choice of words in which to clothe an image. Gentlemen, I never hunt, nor did my father, nor my grandfather, nor my great-great-grandfather. The last named was the son of a man who hunted more than all of you. He died in 1764. I will tell you how. He was named John and was married and became the father of a man who was my great-great-grandfather. He lived with his younger brother, Francis d'Arville, in our castle in the midst of a deep forest in Lorraine. Francis d'Arville always remained a boy throughout his love for hunting. They both hunted from one end of the year to the other without waiting, weariness. They loved nothing else, understood nothing else, talked only of this, and lived for this alone. They were possessed by this terrible, inexorable passion. It consumed them, having taken entire control of them, leaving no place for anything else. They had agreed not to put off the chase for any reason whatsoever. My great-great-grandfather was born while his father was following a fox, but John d'Arville did not interrupt his sport and swore that the little beggar might have waited until after the death cry. His brother Francis showed himself still more hot-headed than he. The first thing on rising, he would go to see the dogs, then the horses. Then he would shoot some birds about the place, and even when about to set out hunting big game. They were all called in the country Monsieur, the Marquis, and the Monsieur, the cadet noblemen, then not acting as do those of our time, who wish to establish in their titles a descending scale of rank. For the son of the Marquis is no more a count or the son of a viscount, a baron, than the son of a great or a general is a colonel by birth. But the nagardy in the vanity of the day finds profit in this arrangement. To return to my ancestor. They were, it appears, immoderately large, bony, hairy, violent, and vigorous. The young one was taller than the elder, and had such a voice that, according to legend, he was very proud of. All the leaves of the forest moved when he shouted. And when he mounted, ready for the chase, it must have been a superb sight to see these two giants astride their great horses. Toward the middle of the winter of the year 1764, the cold was excessive, and the wolves became ferocious. They even attacked belated peasants, roamed around houses at night, howled from sunset to sunrise, ravaged the stables. If you listen now, you can hear them. Oh! At one time, a rumor was circulated. It was said that the colossal wolf of the grayish-white color, which had eaten two children, devoured the arm of a woman, strangled all the watchdogs of the country, was now coming without fear into the house enclosures and smelling around the doors. Yes, many inhabitants affirmed that they had felt his breath, which made the lights flicker. Shortly, a panic ran through the province. No one dared to go out after nightfall. The very shadows seemed haunted by the image of this beast. Ooh, the beast. The brothers d'Arville resolved to find and slay him. So they called together for a grand chase all the gentlemen of the country. It was in vain. They had beaten the forest, scoured the countrysides, beaten the thickets, and had even seen nothing of him. They killed wolves, but not that one. And each night, after such a chase, the beast, as it is to avenge himself, attacked some traveler or devoured some cattle, always far from the place where they had sought him. Finally, one night, he found a way into the swine house of the Castle d'Arville and ate two beauties of the best breed. The two brothers were furious, interpreting the attack as one of bravery on the part of the monster, a direct injury, a defiance. Therefore, taking all their best trained hounds, they set out to run down the beast with courage, excited by anger. From dawn until the sun descended behind the great nut trees, they beat about the forest with no result. At last, both of them, angry and disheartened, turned their horses, stepped into a path bordered by a rushwood. They were marveling at the baffling power of this wolf. But suddenly, they were seized with a mysterious fear. The elder said, "This can be no ordinary beast. One might say he can think like a man. The younger replied, perhaps we should get our cousin, the bishop, to bless a bullet for him, or ask a priest to pronounce some words to help us. Then they were silent. John continued, look at the sun, how red it is. The great wolf will do mischievous stuff tonight. He had scarcely finished speaking when his horse reared. Francis's horse started to run at the same time. A large bush covered with dead leaves rose before them, and a colossal beast, grayish white, sprang out, scampering away through the woods. Yes, he had. Both them gave a grunt of satisfaction, and bending to their necks of their heavy horses, they urged them on with the weight of their bodies, exciting them, hastening with voice and spur, until these strong riders seemed to carry the weight of their beast between their knees, carrying them by force as if they were flying. Thus they rode, crashing through the forest, crossing ravines, climbing up the sides of steep gorges, and sounding the horn at frequent intervals to arouse the people and the dogs of the neighborhood. But suddenly, in the course of this breathtaking ride, my ancestor struck his forehead against a large branch and fractured his skull. He fell to the ground as if dead, while his frightened horse disappeared into the surrounding thicket. The younger D'Arville stopped short, sprang to the ground, seized his brother in his arms, and saw that he had lost consciousness. He sat down beside him, took his disfigured head about his knees, looking earnestly at the lifeless face. Little by little, a fear crept over him, a strange fear that he had never felt before. Fear of the shadows, of the solitude, of the lonely woods, and also the chimerical wolf, which had now come to be the death of his brother. The shadows deepened, and the branches of the trees crackled in the sharp cold. Francis arose, shivering, incapable of remaining there longer, and already feeling his strength fail. There was nothing to be heard, neither the voice of the dogs nor the sound of the horn. All within this invisible horizon was mute. And this gloomy silence and the chill of the evening, there was something strange and frightful. With his powerful hands, he seized John's body and laid it across the saddle to take it home, then mounted gently behind it, his mind troubled by horrible supernatural images, as if he were possessed. Suddenly, in the midst of these fears, a great form passed. It was the wolf. A violent fit of terror seized upon the hunter. Something cold, like a stream of ice water, seemed to glide through his veins, and he made the sign of the cross, like a monk haunted with devils. So dismayed was he by the appearance of the frightful wanderer. Then, his eyes falling upon the inert body before him, his fear was quickly changed to anger, and he trembled with inordinate rage. He pricked his horse and darted after him. He followed him through the corpses, over the ravines, and around great forest trees, traversing woods that he no longer recognized. His eye fixed upon a white spot which was ever flying from him at night covered the earth. His horse was also seen moved by an unknown force. He galloped on with neck extended, crashing over small trees and rocks, with the body of his dead stretched with his the body of the dead stretched across him on the saddle. Brambles caught in his mane, his head, There it was struck the trunks of the trees, was spattered with blood. The marks of the spurs were over his flanks. Suddenly the animal and its rider came out of the forest, rushing through the valley as the moon appeared above the hills. This valley was stony and shut in by enormous rocks, over which it was impossible to pass. There was no way for the wolf but to turn on his steps. Francis gave such a shout. A shout of joy and revenge, that the echo of it was like a roll of thunder. He leaped from his horse, knife in hand. The bristling beast with rounded back was waiting him, his eyes shining like two stars. But before joining the battle, the strong hunter, grasping his brother, seated him upon a rock, supporting his head, which was now but a mass of blood, stones, and cried out loud to him as to one deaf, "Look, John, look here." Then he threw himself upon the monster. He felt himself strong enough to overthrow a mountain, to crush the very rocks in his hands. The beast meant to kill him by sinking his claws in his vitals, but the man had seized him by the throat without even making use of his weapon, and strangled him gently, waiting until his breath stopped and he could hear the death rattle of his heart. And he laughed with the joy of dismay, clutching more and more with a terrible hold, and crying out in his deformation, "Look, John, look." All resistance ceased. The body of the wolf was limp. He was dead. Then Francis, taking him in his arms, threw him down at the feet of his elder brother, crying out in exultant voice, "Here, here, my little John, here he is." Then he placed upon the saddle the two bodies, the one above the other, and started on his way. He returned to the castle, laughing and weeping, like Gargantua at the birth of Pelagiru, shouting in triumph and stamping with delight in relating the death of the beast, and moaning and tearing at his beard in calling the name of his brother. Often, later, when he recalled this day, he would declare with tears in his eyes, "If only poor John had seen me strangle a beast, he would have died content, I am sure." The widow of my ancestor inspired in her son an honor of the chase, which was transmitted from father to son down to myself. The Marquis de Arville was silent. Someone asked, "Is this story a legend or not?" And the narrator replied, "I swear to you, it is true from beginning to end." Then a lady, in a sweet little voice, declared, "It is a beautiful to have passions like that." Well, I hope you all enjoyed this here story with the big old wolf. What a cool story that was. Yep. Very, very interesting. So, with that, I hope you all enjoyed that story. It's quite the thing. Nobody's probably read this book for at least almost 100 years. So you're the first to hear that story in a long, long, long time. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope to see you soon again, and we'll get back to telling these stories at least often enough. And with that, remember, go out, do something nice for your neighbor. Heck, go and howl at the moon. Have the adventure. Have the adventure you want to have. Go out and do that. That's the best thing you can do. Remember,